Alright, ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome back. It's me, Addy, again, and I hope you guys are doing amazing as always. Now, as some of you out there may know, I have been going to town as of late on the new Oblivion Remaster over on my Twitch channel. The game shadow dropped less than 2 weeks ago. Freaking coolest shadow drop ever, by the way. And considering that the original is my 4th favorite game ever, you just know that there was no way this remaster was going to elude my grasp. And of course it didn't. 2 nights ago, I completed the main story of the game after 48 hours of playtime, during which I took on a boatload of the game's other content as well. Obviously, I've not finished everything. It's a Bethesda game, for crying out loud. I mean, irregardless of its old school 2006 nature, it's still a massive game with a wealth of content nonetheless that will take forever to complete. But having played for the amount of time that I did, having finished the main story, and considering the fact that there are so many other games that I gotta get around to playing and streaming and finishing, so many amazing games are coming out at once right now, what the hell? I figured that my previous stream of the game was going to be my last episode for a while. So I spent a bit of time sharing my live thoughts on the experience, which you'll be watching momentarily. Long story short, I loved it. And I couldn't be happier that I get to live at the same time as the Oblivion Remaster. How freaking sick is that? But anywho's, I'll let my live segment play out now. This review will contain gameplay clips highlighting certain mechanics and features in the remaster, but it is ultimately spoiler-free, as I avoided talking about any major story points and such. And before we begin, if you want to catch any and all episodes of my playthrough or stream through, whatever you want to call it, you can find them on my second YouTube channel, that's Irritable Archives, linked in the description below. And if you ever want to stop by and say hi while I'm live on Twitch playing through these games, be sure to head on over to twitch.tv/irritableindian, also linked down below in the description. But without further ado, here's a live review. Let's mosey. This is so goddamn cool that they began T-posing. What a video game. Oblivion at its finest. Even in the end, it couldn't forget its goof. Oblivion can never elude the goof and the scuff and the scuff and the goof.
What do you need, friend?
But there we have it.
I've sworn to
What is going on, by the way? Why are the Blades at war with the Imperial Guards? You know what? The fewer questions we ask, the better. Let's get out of here and review this frickin' game. Alrighty, here we are. That's how you end an Elder Scrolls game right there. Everyone T-posing and the Blades fighting the Imperial City Guards for no fucking reason. That's all. That's really all you need to see. I'm about to talk about this game and review it and share my thoughts on it now. But really, need you see more, need you hear more about this game than just what you saw there to be informed about what you can expect. But no, seriously though. So after 45 hours and 41 minutes, I've completed the main story in Oblivion. Granted, I'm not done with everything. We completed the Knights of the Nine DLC. We completed the Mage's Guild questline. And of course, the main storyline here. There's still so much more to do. It's a freaking Bethesda game, right? So this is an expansive ass open world game that you are not going to finish in 45 hours if you play it at the leisurely pace that I did here on stream. But I played enough of this game to where now I would like to make a concrete opinion on it and sort of like a review that, you know, I can put on the main YouTube channel. Oblivion here, I think, is one of, if not the greatest remasters to a game that I've ever played. Up there with Crisis Core Reunion. Virtuos, the developers who were contracted by Bethesda to work on this, absolutely frickin' knocked it out of the park. They absolutely understood the assignment. What was incredibly important to me about this game going into it was that it would bring the original up to speed, right? For contemporary audiences, for them to be able to enjoy it, but to also be able to retain the original identity of the game. That was incredibly important to me. That this game was going to retain the core identity of the original 2006 Oblivion, with all its charm, all its whimsy, all its goofiness as we kind of just saw there towards the end. It was really important to me that everything that I remember loving about this game growing up was still there in this. And I'm really happy to say that it was. Right? This is Oblivion as you know and remember it from back in the day, if you played it back in the day as well. And if you loved it from back in the day as well, and this was one of your favorite games like it was for me, Oblivion is my 4th favorite game ever made. You know, it effectively introduced me to 3D open world games. If you're kind of in the same boat, I'm very, very pleased to say that you are going to freaking love this experience. I think Virtuos and Bethesda killed it. They understood the assignment. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Virtuos, you might actually know about them via some of their other projects. In fact, they are also working on the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, Delta Snake Eater, which I believe is coming out in August, for which now I'm a lot more excited given the fact that I've seen what they're capable of doing here with a game that I'm actually familiar with and know and love and played a bunch growing up. So I'm a lot more excited for that now. They have proven themselves to be a developer from my perspective who understand how to respect source material. As a remaster should, it tackles everything that you would want it to very effectively. The game, first of all, it looks absolutely stunning. If you just kind of like mosey around here, all the assets, all the textures, all the environments that we knew and loved from the original game have really been beautifully overhauled via Unreal Engine 5. And yes, I know that may be kind of grating to hear for some of you out there, considering it's, you know, Unreal Engine 5 and it's been notorious for a lot of problems, a lot of performance issues, which, you know, I should be honest and mention, you will notice a little bit of stuttering here and there when you play this game. A couple of crashes here and there too. I was unfortunate to run into some of those, particularly tonight. I actually crashed twice, but they weren't in quick succession or anything like that. They were pretty decently spaced out. The crashes are few and far between, but they are there. Bottom line is, the developers absolutely used the hell out of Unreal Engine 5 to make this look as beautiful as they could. Everything has been given a glow up with a capital G, including the goofy, whimsical NPCs who are nothing but klutzes, right? As you'll know from the original Oblivion.
Well met.
I don't think this man is happy to meet me. I don't think this is a well-met scenario. Oh. Yeah, I didn't mean to laugh at you there, dude. Awkward.
The Mages Guild has made more than a few enemies since necromancy was banned. Bye.
There we go. Bye. I love how he said bye instead of farewell. What? He's still alive. Oh my god. What the fuck? We're rewriting history here. Bro, what is happening? Oh my god, he is juking those spikes. Man is going right... Oh my... Holy shitballs. Fifth Ragger, you filthy, man. You goddamn filthy here. No, and he finally died! And it wasn't even from getting squashed. Son of a bitch. But did you see those jukes? They were filthy, man. He shall henceforth be known as Fifth Ragger the Filthy. Both in life and clearly in death. For all them filthy jukes. Oh my god. I love how, like, we tried to recreate the meme and it went completely off the rails. As you can see, everyone looks like they've been given the biggest glow up ever. But the best part of it all is that they all sound and behave the way they did originally. They all have these really silly, goofy moments that give rise to all of these memes that we know and love. That's all there. All the jank from the original Oblivion is there. Now, that said, that's all there for better or worse, right? This game, while it uses Unreal Engine 5 for the visual component, it still is running the original Oblivion under the hood. It still uses the original creation engine. When you play this game, you are playing Oblivion, as you remember it. It is the same game. It's just been given a glow up. That's the best way to look at it. It is just a ridiculously high quality remaster, to the point where people have been debating whether this game is a remaster or a remake. They made such a high quality remaster here that you have people arguing that this might in fact be a remake and that Bethesda aren't doing it justice by calling it a remaster. My stance on it is that it is in fact a remaster, because a remake, in my book, is when you go in and make everything from scratch from the ground up. Like, think Final Fantasy VII, the original, to Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? Everything there has been done from scratch, obviously. This is not that. This is still the same Oblivion. Everything in this game is as you remember it, is as you know it, with the exception of some tiny things that you normally would expect out of a remaster anyway, like tiny overhauls to some gameplay systems and mechanics in order to polish up some areas of the original game to make it feel more approachable for modern audiences. You've definitely improved the approachability here. With regards to that, some good examples would be in combat, right? When you're fighting, there's way more weight to everything. It feels a lot more like Skyrim. They've definitely retroactively gone into this game and put in a lot of the DNA that was in Skyrim into Oblivion, which I think was a pretty good decision. You've got a lot of the weight of Skyrim. The UI is quite similar to Skyrim as well, with the health bars, mana, all of that. The menus are the exact same pretty much as in the original Oblivion. Thematically, that is. You got that whole parchment paper aesthetic going on with all the tabs and everything like that. The map is the same. And I also love, on that topic, that they kept things the same that ought to have remained the same, which we already really talked about at length when it came to all the charm of the game and the NPCs and stuff. But also in terms of things like the music, I'm really glad that they never overhauled any of that at all. Just goes to show how timeless and incredible the original soundtrack of 2006 Oblivion was. It's been completely unchanged, and it still hits every bit as hard as it did from back in 2006. So that's all the same, but yes, in terms of the gameplay changes, UI obviously is a big one. Thematically, everything's the same, but they've gone in and made some decisions to make it obviously easier to navigate. Now, ironically, here's the thing. Going into this, you would expect that the number one thing that they absolutely would have not created any pain points in whatsoever at all would be the UI and some of the quality of life things. Like, at the bare minimum, you can expect that to be the thing they did best in a remaster, right? Not exactly, in my opinion. My only pain point with Oblivion Remaster would be that some of the quality of life things that they worked on here to improve, they didn't actually really improve on in any substantial way. And there are very tiny examples of that. Largely, they did an excellent job, but there are some problem spots in this game that kind of made me go, I wonder why they even bothered changing that aspect of the user interface at all. Biggest example would be the alchemy. The menuing for this was a little bit of a slog. They made it a little bit more tedious than it needed to be. In the original, you would select your ingredient, and then it would show you the other ingredients that you can cook with to make things that are possible to make at that given moment. In this game, you have to like filter out individually the ingredients you can use together to make the potion, then select the ingredients, and then make the potion. So they added a couple of extra unnecessary steps to a couple things here and there. The map is another good example. I believe in the original Oblivion, you had another tab separately to be able to look at the local map. Now, every single time you want to do that, you have to zoom into your current position to fully open that up, which takes a couple extra seconds, you know, even though it's not a huge deal. Still, we're playing a remaster, right? So you would anticipate that anything and everything about the interface from the original would have been made easier to kind of sift through in this remaster here, which is not really the case. A big thing for me in terms of all of this was the fact that they could have, just like we were talking about with how they brought in things from Skyrim retroactively to kind of improve the experience here. I wish that they had made it so that the places you've already visited on the map and kind of explored, like the dungeons and Oblivion gates and stuff, the ones that you've explored extensively and gotten to the end of, I wish they would have put in a little clear tag for the location on that map. They didn't actually do that. So you still need to painstakingly go back to each location to kind of jog your memory to see if you've actually been there, done whatever is there to do, explored the area, all of that. So just really tiny things. These are tiny pain points. For better or worse, we were about to mention this a little bit earlier, this game is identical to the original. And that leads me to talking about the bugs. Bugs and Bethesda, a duo as old as time itself, right? This game is still rife with the bugs that plagued the original game. And some of them, of course, have been kept here, haven't been patched out, because like we were talking about, they really wanted to respect the original, including all of the bugs that, yes, garnered meme status and were funny and people laughed at them and all of that. They wanted to keep those intact, and they did keep them intact. They didn't patch them out. So some of the voice acting mistakes are a great example. Actresses and actors flubbing their lines, rereading them, and you being able to hear that.
I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night. Wait a minute, let me do that one again. I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night. Bye. Things like that are still in this game. The bugs you remember from the original game, the glitches you remember from the original game, they are all still here. And like I said, for better or worse. The funny ones that don't really have any bearing on gameplay are still there, but then the ones that do have bearing on gameplay are still there as well. We actually ran into a few of those ourselves. One big predominant example being this follower who wasn't meant to be one of our followers, pretty much following us till the end of the earth in this game, who kind of became a nuisance because he's the type of guy who, if he saw you committing a crime, he would report you to the guards. He would basically impede your ability to enjoy the game, and we couldn't get rid of him, so we had to use like the console commands to kind of work through that. There are a couple of other bugs that were also introduced in this remaster that weren't there in the original Oblivion. There are some visual glitches in this game where you actually don't see the weapon that your character is currently equipped in the menu here. It's like a tiny thing, right? Doesn't have any big bearing on gameplay, but it's kind of annoying that it's there. You'd rather it not be there so you can see exactly what your character looks like, appreciate how far you've come, the gear you have. I have to wonder if it's going to be patched out or not. We know Bethesda's propensity to like largely avoid patching out a lot of their bugs, but considering they made this in collaboration with Virtuos, one would hope that since things are a little bit different on the developmental side, that, you know, they might actually go in and take out some of these things that were introduced in this game. There are a couple of other bugs as well here and there that definitely impeded my ability to progress through the game the way I wanted to.
Like one quest where we had to go wipe out some vampires, report to this guy, and he was nowhere to be found. I looked it up, that was a known bug, which admittedly was from the original game, it wasn't introduced here. The pain points that you can think of are definitely noticeable in this game. Ironically, the best part about this game is the fact that Virtuos absolutely respected the original. That's the hardest thing to pull off when it comes to making a remaster, is bringing everything up to speed while respecting the original material. But the thing that they should have been able to do flawlessly with flying colors was actually the thing that this game has issues with the most, I feel, which is like the UI and quality of life features. And of course the bugs, right? The things I love though, beyond the visuals, beyond the actual overhaul given to this game to make it look as beautiful as it can, this game that we know and love, one of the most important RPGs ever in my opinion, had to do with, like I was talking about, a couple of the systems. I think, like I was saying, with how they brought back some of the DNA from Skyrim and put them into Oblivion, the hybridization of the leveling system, like combining Oblivion's leveling system with Skyrim's to create what we see here, was done wonderfully. I think this is actually my favorite leveling system, period. No joke. I prefer this to Oblivion's original leveling. I prefer this to Skyrim's leveling. I think it's like the perfect marriage of two leveling systems that I largely enjoyed to make a leveling system that I enjoy the most. You have like the major and minor skills from OG Oblivion, and you also have that leveling progress bar from Skyrim, and the aspect of Skyrim where it's like anything and everything that you do over the course of the game, from fighting to spell casting, all of those attributes as they go up will notch your character up towards the next level, after which you can select certain perks. So they basically brought that into Oblivion while merging that with the major and minor skill systems that it originally had, and it's all really neatly laid out here, as you can tell. You got all of your skills. You can now get some really cool new perks too as you level these skills up, as you can see on the right side of the screen. It's really, really fun to notch your character up, to level your character up, especially in Oblivion here, where I originally, even like with the 2006 game, preferred it to Skyrim, simply because in Oblivion, and mind you, I love Skyrim, right? This isn't a jab at Skyrim. I think Skyrim's an amazing game as well. I just personally preferred Oblivion. This is my fourth favorite game ever. My favorite game by Bethesda in general. One of the things I absolutely loved, and one of the reasons why I loved Oblivion's leveling system more than Skyrim in the first place, was because literally every single thing that you can think of that your character can do has an attribute, or a skill rather, right? Whereas in Skyrim, that's not really the case. Great example is hand-to-hand, right? In Skyrim, that's a bit of an afterthought. It only falls under the, I think, heavy armor or two-handed tree, right? There being like a singular perk for improving the damage of your unarmed hand-to-hand attacks. In Oblivion, it has its own tree. If you do more unarmed hand-to-hand attacks, hand-to-hand will improve. Acrobatics, just movement in general, right? Jumping, walking, running, swimming, which, by the way, now you can also sprint in this game. Which wasn't there in the original, which I really, really like. That also has an impact on your character, right? That goes up over time, that levels you up over time, and as you can see, there's so many cool perks associated with it too, like eventually you can jump on the surface of water, you can jump higher the higher your acrobatic skill goes, and it feels so nice to do parkour in this game, hop all around the place, especially when you go through the Oblivion gates, and you want to get some of them done a lot faster than you normally do, so you know, with your improved acrobatics at that point, you're literally just hopping so freaking high to get to like halfway up the towers without actually climbing up the towers from the interiors to be able to then get to the top floor and, you know, grab the sigil stone and stuff. It just enables you to interface with the game in so many fun ways in terms of like verticality and all of that. But that's more of just me gassing up the original Oblivion. I want this review to be more of me talking about the remaster specifically, and the remaster per se, as opposed to Oblivion, the core game. But all of this talk about the remaster itself is to say, and is to segue back to just mentioning how brilliant of a game Oblivion is in general at a base level. If it weren't for how good this game was, and if it weren't for how much of an enjoyable open world Western RPG Oblivion was from the very beginning, no amount of remastering was going to make this better, right? All this is possible, all this feels beautiful, all this feels amazing to go through in this incredible glow up because of how incredible Oblivion already is, right? One of the greatest RPGs ever created, an incredible, beautiful world. Cyrodiil is so warm and welcoming and vibrant. I've always preferred it to the bleak, drab province of Skyrim, which, by the way, I don't mean that in a bad way, right? That's what, you know, Skyrim is all about. is the bleakness because of the terrain, the environment, the biome, and also the narrative that you experience while you're there, that period of Tamriel's history. It makes sense. They nailed the aesthetic they were going for, but going through Cyrodiil to me has always felt like venturing through some sort of a Miyazaki-esque environment, right? And when I say Miyazaki, I talk a lot about Hidetaka Miyazaki of From Software. I'm actually talking about Hayao Miyazaki, right? Of Studio Ghibli. His movies are so colorful and homely, and venturing through Cyrodiil has always felt like that to me. Very green, very lush. Now that said, and I have seen some discourse around this, the remaster may not seem as lush and green as in the original, and I saw a lot of people talking about that, like I said, and they weren't too happy about it. I honestly don't have a problem with it. This is like the most vibrant the game is generally going to get, if not a little bit more so than this. But if you've played the original Oblivion, you can probably tell right now that it's a little bit muggier looking. I'm happy to say though that if it really does bother you, there are some reshades available online that you can install for this game that kind of addresses that. Me personally, I don't mind it. I am constantly, while I'm going through this game, enamored with what it looks like. The lighting blows me away, the visuals, the assets, the textures, everything here blows me away. I could not be happier with how these things turned out, especially the look of the armor sets, since we're talking about the visuals and stuff again. And the weaponry, like right now we have this really cool Daedric armor equipped. It's so nice, man. They absolutely crushed it in terms of the visuals. I have always loved the province of Cyrodiil, one of my favorite open worlds in any video game ever. Like I said, this game originally introduced me to 3D open worlds and showed me the scope and ambition that video games are capable of having. Such an incredible world. World building is amazing. The quests are amazing. The dungeons are amazing. And the characters too, right? Like, this is going to be a spoiler-free review, so I won't be talking about what happens in the story and stuff, but this game also has some of my favorite characters out of any Elder Scrolls thing I've played. And really, granted, I've only played Oblivion and Skyrim. I've seen a lot of gameplay of Morrowind. Even then, I feel like that's still saying a decent amount, because these are big, expansive games with a lot of storylines and a lot of characters. I still maintain that Oblivion has the best main story, the most entertaining quests, the most immersive quests, great magic system, and yeah, there's always something interesting going on in Cyrodiil that's vying for your attention out in the open world. Between the Oblivion Gates, classic dungeons with rats and goblins, there's so many different interesting locations to go through, and yeah, the Oblivion Gates are the elephant in the room. I think they look absolutely freaking diabolical, terrifying, horrifying, hellish, in the best of ways. They crushed it when it came to the Oblivion Gates. Pro tip, this is a spoiler-free review, but if you're mainly going to be focusing on the main story first, then please, please, please make a hard save before you finish the game, because that way you can continue to do the Oblivion Gates after you finish the main story. You can reload to a previous save. It's important to do this because when you finish the main story, the Oblivion Gates are gone for good. And that's where you get a solid bulk of fun from Oblivion, is going through the gates, exploring them, getting the sigil stones, shutting them down, and then enchanting your weaponry with the sigil stones. It's really, really fun. Like how with Skyrim, the crux is sort of fighting dragons. In Oblivion, the crux is going through the Oblivion Gates and exploring those hellish plains and getting the stones, fighting the Dremora. In the end here, I'm going to say that Oblivion Remastered to me is a solid 9 out of 10 game. There are areas where I feel like this game could have been a little bit more polished. This project could have been a bit more polished, and I'm only talking in regards to some of the quality of life elements, which I feel were a little bit undercooked, and some of the bugs as well, which I do wish were patched out. I am happy that a lot of the bugs that have no bearing on gameplay that garnered meme status over the years weren't patched out, because that just amplifies the feeling of that you're playing Oblivion and that this game is the game that you recognize and love. But some of the stuff that's, not been patched out that affects gameplay, I have to ask myself, like, why those are still there, It was a little bit annoying. And of course, because of the performance issues with Unreal Engine 5, you'll definitely notice a little bit of stuttering here and there out in the open world. Your game might crash every now and again. I think it's more of a PC issue though. So a solid 9 out of 10 for me, and I would definitely recommend this experience, especially if you're someone who has, and I know there are quite a few of these kinds of people out there. In fact, some of you lovely folks in this community kind of are in this boat of having played Skyrim and Morrowind, but funnily having missed out on the original Oblivion. I know that there are quite a few people out there who are in that boat. If you never got around to playing Oblivion, but you're a fan of the other Elder Scrolls games, then you absolutely owe it to yourself, especially now, and especially if you are someone who just likes the newer stuff, because maybe some of the older stuff is a little bit, understandably more difficult to get into. So, you've only really played Skyrim, maybe some ESO, and are looking forward to Elder Scrolls 6. I would still absolutely recommend this. The beauty of this game is that it is the Oblivion from back in 2006, but at the same time, it's been made more approachable. I think at the end of the day, that is the greatest thing that Virtuos accomplished with this remaster, is they made it a hell of a lot more approachable for folks who got into the Elder Scrolls series a little bit later, who are looking to, you know, play some of the older games because, you know, they're now fans and want to see what all the other games are about. And this just makes me really hope that Virtuos tackles a Morrowind remaster someday, because I've seen so much gameplay of Morrowind over the years and I really want to play it. I found it kind of difficult to get into the original one. But if they manage to pull off something where they retain the identity largely of the original Morrowind while making it a little bit more approachable, man, I'm going to be there day one. They absolutely cooked with Oblivion Remastered here. You can get it for $50, great price. It's available on pretty much every platform, even Game Pass here. There's great value here, especially considering that you get all the DLCs in this game. That's been another really nice aspect of this playthrough, is that we got to experience just the DLCs in general that I never got to play in the original Oblivion back when it came out. Believe it or not, yeah, I never got around to the DLCs. So it's kind of nice to experience the Knights of the Nine one, and I can't wait to play Shivering Isles. I've heard this game has some of the most fun expansions. So that's another thing I would recommend this game for, is some great value. It's like the definitive, comprehensive package containing everything that came out in the original Oblivion. So yeah, go out and get this game, man. There are whisperings that there's going to be a Fallout 3 remaster by Virtuos in the next year, and I cannot wait, because that's my favorite Fallout game, but that's a topic for another day. I am just so happy with this game. I could not believe that this game was real on multiple occasions. Still, a part of me doesn't, because it wasn't even more than 2 weeks ago that we were just kind of sitting playing Chrono Trigger, going about our days, completely not in the know about this even existing, because this was a shadow drop, right? And in hindsight, the greatest shadow drop of all time, by the way. They just kind of dropped this on us. The leaks, the rumors, the whisperings all started kind of like cropping up less than 2 weeks ago. And after that, Bethesda dropped the live stream on us. We freaked out over it, and they were like, hey, this game's going to be available today itself. And the rest is history. We went down an amazing trip down memory lane of my fourth favorite game ever made. I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. This is my character, Swanee O'Yeri, signing off. I still have much more to do in the beautiful province of Cyril here. But for now, we are going to be taking a detour. We're going to be taking a break from this playthrough and then coming back to it, because there's so many other games I got to get through as well. Yeah, to all you out there who are interested in playing this game, who are on the fence about it, who are looking to play this game, do it. Pull the trigger. You won't be disappointed. Yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing playthrough. There's my review of Oblivion Remastered. 9 out of 10 from me. They crushed, absolutely crushed it with a capital C in bringing the world of my fourth favorite game ever made to life here with the contemporary toppings of 2025.